you've ever asked yourself, how can I get the swing and the golf game that I've always imagined without trying every tip, every training aid, watching every video after video on social media, then this podcast is for you. Welcome. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to the Imagen Golf Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Imagen Golf and PXG. All right, welcome back, Imagination. It is FORE Friday. I apologize. I am hitting into you again. I'm hitting into you because I am striping my PXG 11 wood. That's right, 11 wood. Why do you have an 11 wood? Daniel, I didn't even know they made 11 woods. Why do you have an 11 wood? Well, because I'm 60 and I can hit a lot of my longer irons, and I striped this 11 wood like 100 and probably, I don't know, 65, 70 yards. It drops out of the sky at like 45, 50 degrees, and it spins at almost 7,000. So that's why I hit that 11 wood. And my apologies if I'm hitting into you. So no, all kidding aside, look, this is where we give you a tip, a tool, something that you can take with you immediately without really changing anything in your game. And we do that in 4 minutes or less starting now. But today is just going to be a little bit longer because in doing some research for today, I realized that it's going to run over just a little bit, but bear with me. It's absolutely going to be worth it. So today's title is look, I titled it like the Great Sharpie Debate, right? Does a line actually help your putting? And look, in full disclosure, okay, at Imagen Golf, we are big proponents of a line on the golf ball, okay? And I know that there's some of you out there that are not proponents of it, but we're going to go through the case for it and the case against it, if you would. But I think when you're done listening to this podcast after about 7 minutes, you're going to be on the side of it helps, right? Look, I again, in full disclosure, I just got back from the PGA Championship where I followed or I saw probably, I don't know, at least 25 plus golfers. And without exception, all 25 of them had some type of mark on their golf ball. And about 80 to 90% of them had some type of line on the ball. Okay. And they're the uber pros, right? The uber professionals, if you would, right? The elite at their sport, and they're using a line, right? Now, let's just build the case for first and foremost, right? If you were going to start with like the positives, right? Because on paper, right, if you think about it, right, using a line to aim your putt makes perfect kind of logical sense. I mean, when you think about putting, it is essentially geometry mixed with physics. If you can, let's say, mathematically align your ball or a ball to an intended target, right? Shouldn't you make more putts? I mean, the science would say yes, right? Especially, right, under the right conditions, right? And there is some science, some proven science behind this, okay? So there was a study, okay? A fascinating study, actually, if you have some time to read it. It's out there on the interweb, right? It was produced by the International Journal of Golf Science. Who even knew there was such a thing? But the International Journal of Golf Science. And they looked at putting successes from varying distances. And they found that simply using a line or a ball alignment mark, right, significantly improved success on straight, flat putts from about 8.5 feet and in, right? And at 8.5 feet in particular, right, getting the ball started on the exact right line was the primary factor on whether the putt dropped or not, right? If your speed is even reasonably close, a perfect starting line at 8.5 feet equals a made putt, right? So the line, right, on the ball helped you line the start line up, and then the speed obviously dropped the putt, right? So essentially what they were saying was without the line on the ball, right, a perfect speed, right, would get it close to the hole, right? But with the line, you were able to get the ball on the starting line that much easier. and they hold more putts. Okay, so that was the actual science, if you would, right? Um, the In my opinion, what it does for us is when you when you put a line on the golf ball and you line it up to, let's say, the aiming point that you're shooting for, right? Not just your starting line, but let's say it's a 20-foot putt and you're looking at an apex that is, 6 inches to the left side of the cup, right? You're not That's the apex, right? If you're looking at that apex, it makes it easier to know exactly where you're lining that ball up if you have a line on the golf ball. And then if you take the line on the golf ball and you line it up with the line on your putter, every putter today has a line on the putter. Well, then you're standing over your putt with that much more confidence. All right. So if putting is 50% mechanics and 50% psychology, right, which it is, I think using a line completely, right, separates those two crucial phases of putting, right? And the reading phase and the execution phase. So without that line, golfers tend to constantly kind of second guess their reading, or their read, I should say, while standing over the ball, even if it's subconscious. Is it outside left? Maybe I'm reading this just a little bit more. Is it 1 cup? Is it 1.5 cups? Right? And this leads to deceleration or manipulation of the stroke, or manipulation of the face. All right. So when you set that line on the ball, that reading phase is really officially over, right? And your brain is now free to focus entirely on that execution phase. All right. And by the way, that is not subjective, right? That's been proven out as well. Okay. So I think what that line does is it really is this ultimate feedback loop, right? And this might be the most valuable reason of all for like amateur golfers in particular, right? Because biomechanic experts note that a line provides immediate, undeniable visual feedback on your stroke. A perfect end over end roll. Easy for me to say, right? The line looks like a solid black line, or I use a green line as an example, right? As it rolling to the cup. This means you struck the ball absolutely perfectly square. I mean, that's a great feeling. Even if you missed the putt, right? Um, we talk about making your putt, meaning you're not trying to hold the putt, you're trying to make the putt. You did everything on your end, right? You aligned everything up, you made your stroke, you made the appropriate read, if you would. Everything was great, right? It just didn't drop, right? It's an imperfect science, it's an imperfect surface, right? But you did everything you could, all right? If the ball is wobbling, right, then like, it's wobbling like, I used to have a coach that said, it's like a bad wheel on a grocery cart. Right? Get back to the green, Daniel, and start putting better, right? But if it's wobbling, you didn't put a good strike on it. All right. So I think that we've made kind of a solid case, all right, for a line on the ball, right? In my opinion, there is no way that the line can hurt you. None. If nothing less, it just gives you a better feeling, right, of commitment, and you give that one extra level of accuracy, right, that you probably don't have if you don't have a line on your ball. All right. So that's the case for it. The case against it, if you would, or kind of a plot twist, if you would, is a group called My Golf Spy, right? They are, I think, like, I wouldn't even say quietly anymore, but they're definitely becoming like the go-to as far as unbiased testing and stuff, right? Um, they did a bunch of tests, right? With and without a line, all right? Without lines, balls with lines. And their test came out the opposite. Their test came out that testers actually hold just slightly more putts when they had balls without a line. All right. So I, I I don't think that's fair, though, in the sense that it could be anything, right, on a given day. It could have been the guys that were hitting the balls, all right? It could be the putters that they were using. It could be a ton of factors, right? It could be the frequency. In other words, how long did they do it, right? Did they do it over they only did it for, X amount of putts. right? What if you did it over a week, over a month, over a year, over a series of a couple years? All right. So to me, that study doesn't really um, say the opposite, if you would, right? All it does is just cast a little bit of a shadow or a little bit of a doubt, right? But in my opinion, getting back to it, and in our students, we have 6,000 of them now, right? There's never been a student, never, that we've put through our putting lesson, and we give a pretty extensive putting lesson. There's never been a student that has come back and said, you know what? After using the line, and by the way, a lot of them do not use a line, right? And then when we advocate for it, never once has any of them come back and say, you know what? The more I thought about it, I am not using a line. It's never happened, right? In fact, just the opposite. Hey, I started using the line. I took the putting lesson, and now my father-in-law is using the line. Hey, I took the putting lesson, and I dropped 7 strokes now. So, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most, all right, get get your golf ball, get one of these templates that they have, throw it on the back of your golf ball or on top of your golf ball, and start drawing a line. All right. Heck, they have golf balls now with a series of lines. They have, you know, TaylorMade makes one with like, man, half the ball is a line, right? It's color coded. It's got about an inch long line. All right. It's shaded yellow, shaded gray, then shaded yellow. All right. But here's the definitive bottom line. Statistically, right? The line will help you make more putts if your brain and your mind will trust the fact that that's what it does. That's my thought. That's what I have for you today. Thanks for listening, and make more putts. All right, then. That's today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the follow button wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check out our site, imagengolf.com. Check out our YouTube page at Imagen Golf, and we're on all the social media platforms on the same at Imagen Golf. And here's to getting you the swing and the game that you've always imagined. Hey, Daniel here. Look, let's be honest. We all have that one golfer in our one or two golfer in our lives who is one bad round away from throwing a club, snapping a shaft, or even worse than yet, buying new clubs for a bad golf game. Or maybe even that golfer is you. This holiday season, stop guessing and start getting better. Right now at Imagen Golf, we're offering up to 20% off all golf lessons and gift cards through the end of the year. Whether it's a single tune-up or a full season transformation, give the gift of lower scores and more fun on the course this year. Because at the end of the day, a better swing lasts way longer and a better game than just a box of balls. Visit imagengolf.com today and grab your gift cards and save. Imagine Golf, because golf just doesn't have to be that hard.